Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, and
Hi.
welcome to episode 211 of Flesh and Pod. Fuck me. My name is Logan. I'm your host. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Mara has broken me, by the way. Welcome, Mara Faris, to the show, by
Hi,
the way.
thanks for having me. I'm here to ruin everybody's day.
You are. I wasn't aware of a thing in Transformers called Kiss Players.
Don't Google it. Whatever you do, don't Google
not.
it.
Whatever. If you value your childhood, do not Google this.
You will be on the list.
I became mortified. I used an incognito browser from a different app to just make sure, and I still think I am now on a watch list. And it's all Mara's fault.
Good times.
Well, holy fuck. What? Okay. We're a Flesh and Blood show. I brought Mara on here.
You saw some Flesh and Blood.
To keep us in line.
We
wouldn't talk wrestling.
Is this the Teklovasin support that's coming?
Probably.
Gets a little ally that.
It's the Weiss Schwartz crossover with Fab, where there are anime girls that kiss Teklovasin. You know what? I'm not continuing. I can't continue this. I'm done. Fucking Christ. No. This is bad.
Yeah. Oh, it was rough.
Nope. So yeah, I brought Mara in to keep us on the rails, and so we'd stop talking about wrestling and shit like that and have an actual Fab conversation. And then she comes on and she's like, "Hey, do you know what this is?" and shows me a random transform I've never seen. And then she alludes to this thing. I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. You haven't heard of Kiss Players?" And I'm like, "No." So she's like, "You need to Google that." And I'm like, "Okay, that doesn't sound like something I want my search history." So incognito mode, different browser. And I'm like, this is a nightmare. This is nothing I ever wanted to know about. I regret being a part of this conversation. What the fuck did I ever get myself into? All of
this is
things.
the fandom that you like.
No. This is a manga associated with a fandom that I like. Not the same thing. Fucking Christ. Okay.
So Flesh and Blood is fun.
Mara, how are you?
I'm delightful. How are you?
No, I was better 20 minutes ago. And with me as always is Darick. Darick, did you do anything in Flesh and Blood? And hopefully it didn't involve Kiss Players, whatever that is.
This is going to be my new favorite thing for a while.
God damn it.
I did not, because I was helping do some co-streaming coverage this weekend. So I essentially had some of the broadcast coverage open in one screen, while then I was also co-streaming some of the Riftbound stuff from this weekend. There was a PPG thing in Florida. So I was helping with that and then just calling coverage in another window over here.
Darick to have a productive weekend.
I don't know if I call it that, but
it snowed like another 7 inches here. Because why not?
Yeah, you know what? It snowed. It snowed here. It's not supposed to snow like that here. It is impossible levels of cold outside right now, and I don't appreciate it.
That's not impossible.
No, there's a negative number, which means we are in abyssal temperatures, which, if I remember my science math, means physics starts to break down.
That's negative wind chills, though. Not negative basal temperature. So you're still fine.
I'm definitely not fine. It's very cold outside.
Oh. The wind chills here were negative 25, which I still wear a hoodie in. I don't on a winter
think
coat
that's a real number.
It's negative
25.
10
I don't think that's
wind chill, which is not real. Just stay out of the wind.
Yeah, that's not
really
a possible thing here. It is windy here.
I mean, it's not a thing here either, but we pretend like it is.
Yeah.
The coldest wind chill I've ever been a party to was, I believe, -74.
That's
so your paltry numbers are not moving my needles.
No,
so.
I can't do negative numbers, y'all. I'm not built for this.
You really aren't. But Darick and I are northern Midwestern boys, so we're just like, whatever. Darick has lake effect snow. I have bitter cold. What the fuck? Who cares?
Yeah. Just give me like a nice normal temperature, like 98 degrees.
Oh my!
That's not normal.
Literally the most normal a temperature can be. That is your body. That is safe. That is normal. The temperature outside,
internal.
Outside temperature, inside temperature, equilibrium, perfect temperature.
That's not that's not
how that works. That's how it works. That's science.
You don't know science. You're a fantasy bitch. What the fuck?
Definitely how science works. 98.6 degrees is the perfect temperature outside.
I don't want my temperature to be named after a boy band. I'm sorry.
You do. You really do.
Wait, what was 98 Degrees song? Because Summer Girls was not them. That was LMO. Or LFO. Is 98 Degrees I Swear?
No, that was Boyz II Men.
That's Boyz II Men. You're right.
You're gonna make me Google this? No, I'm not.
I am. I'm not putting that in my history.
Yeah, I would Google Kiss players before I would Google 98 Degrees songs. Let's just be clear.
98 Degrees' biggest hits include the #1 collaboration with Mariah Carey, Thank God I Found You, and other massive top 5 singles like The Hardest Thing, Because of You, and I Do, parentheses, Cherish You, with Thank God I Found You, featuring Mariah Carey and Joe, being their only US #1 and a major Grammy-nominated success. Right off the top of my head.
Okay, that makes sense.
Bam.
That's off the top of Google. I mean, we watched you do it. Okay. I was watching a video with Praz, and he was talking about Method Man and how he was recording, and Method Man walks into the studio and he's like, "What the fuck you doing in my studio?" And they're like, "We got this time." And Method's like, "Man, Unique always doing this shit." And they're like, Praz is like, "Hold on. Unique is a studio in New York. We're in LA." And Dirty listens to the beat. He's like, "Can I get on this shit?" And Praz like, "Yeah, whatever. We'll throw it away later. We'll just delete it." And Dirty comes in and starts doing weird shit. And he's like, "I don't know what this is." And then he lays a verse. And then the producer's like, "I don't know what just happened, but you got to hear this." And Old Dirty Bastard had laid everything in reverse. Because normally you lay your verse and then you lay your ad libs so they come in on the verse when you can hear it. He laid all of his ad libs and then did his verse in sync with the ad libs that he couldn't hear. And which is impossible unless you have everything in your head and you know it. And he just did it as like freestyle riffing. So I was like, that's fucking wild. But I don't know how I got onto that. But this is a Flesh and Blood show. And we have news. We have results.
We have a couple of things. I don't know if y'all did something, but things happened before you recorded, and I don't understand how you managed that.
Well, both our football teams lost today.
Which one's that?
So we made a devil's bargain? I don't know.
Wait, football's the round one with the...
That's the one with the oblong ball. No, that's a European football. We have the oblong brown ball.
It's
which is American football.
Hand it. The one with Michael Jordan.
No.
Michael B. Jordan?
Close. No, that's Sinners. So, which was another discussion we had before this show started. But
no, we had 2 discussions about Sinners.
We sure did. One of them was Kiss players. God damn it. Aladoris is going to be all over this in the Discord too. He's like, "Oh, you didn't know about this? I own all of it. Would you like to borrow them?" It's like, any rate.
Right.
So news in the Flesh and Blood world. The biggest headline is Kano is dead.
R.I.P. Arcane.
Our long international nightmare is over.
Now we can
long live.
Now everyone can cut all their AB from all their matchups.
Not all of it.
Just gone.
but you get at least 3 free sideboard slots that you didn't have before. So welcome to our Kano free universe, as in Battle Hardened Vienna, Jan Kuchera won on Kano to put the short king over the limit and into the glue factory. Wrist and piss, you piece of shit. The hero responsible for bouncing me out of more events than any other hero in all of Flesh and Blood. I am not sad at all.
Tell us how you really feel.
I fucking hate Kano. Like, I hate Prism with so much passion, but fucking Kano. Like,
you know what?
And Kano players were the worst too. They were just obnoxious about it.
I would rather play against a Kano than a Prism.
I'll devil's advocate here. Even though I have died in spectacular fashion to a lot of Kanos, I'm gonna kind of miss the guy. Kano games are kind of fun. Like, it's not.
Am I dead yet? Is a game you want to play? Am I dead yet?
See though, but then a lot of it also, like, Kano's a 30 health hero. He doesn't exactly block well. So like, y'all are playing these like fair decks into Kano. You just play like blinding aggro into Kano, and it's just like the best matchup ever, because you get to sit down and you go, hey, here's my aggro deck, and they go, cool, here's my Kano, and then they say round start, and then you get 50 minutes for food no matter how the matchup goes. It's great.
Okay, you do have a point.
It's awesome.
And I respect that.
Yeah, aggro decks into Kano is just like guaranteed we get a lunch break, and I love it. A good we're not coming back to work for a while lunch break. We could go sit down at a nice restaurant.
Yeah, we could order appetizers.
I just played AB5.
No.
Well, sure. You play assassin.
AB.
You only want to win one
zero. We're not We're not presenting nothing. We're gonna hit you, and one of us is gonna explode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
None of this blocking shit.
Yeah. This top 8 was a Kano, 2 Syndras, a Mario, 2 heavy hitters KO, a Lyeth, and a Gravy. So no Earth heroes yet again. But more importantly, no fucking Kano from here on out. Actually, that's the last Arcane Rising hero.
That is in fact our Arcane Rising is
done.
Arcane Rising is done, and Arya is done, and Monarch could be done any minute now.
Levia and
any minute now. So no. Just one more card.
Minute.
One more card.
And zero WTR heroes have living
just Bolt
legends.
needs one more card. That's it. One more card.
In addition to the one more card that was one
no.
card
So in addition to the one more card that was 4 one more cards ago.
Oh, sure. Okay. Just making sure we understand.
Just like give him an armory deck.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's one over there on my shelf unopened.
Well, that's the problem. It's unopened. If you got some points on him, he'd be gone.
Maybe if you opened it, he'd be LF by now.
The only person that wins less events than Mara is me. So yeah, not exactly. As Mara's like, motherfucker, I'm gonna fucking. But Mara does have a Pro Tour second place,
first loser,
which is much better than I ever did.
I have a lot of first losers actually, and some second losers, and some like top. Within the range of like,
unlike Majin Bay,
unlike Majin, I physically harm myself to make story times better. Bay, that man hurts himself on purpose just to win tournaments, and it is unacceptable.
I mean, the Professor X rub at Worlds was pretty good.
I love Majin, but I'm very convinced that Majin's doing it for story times, and it's hilarious.
I don't enjoy known cheater Caleb Van Patten, but I do love Majin Bay. There was also a calling this weekend in Seattle, which was won by Chris Yali on Kasai. beating a Kano in the finals. So, like sometimes I do think, and honestly, I do think somewhere in this hierarchy, Kanos were it's a psyop. Kanos were just continually Kantano was continually getting second places on purpose and conceding or punting the finals to dodge.
I tried that on Dromai. It doesn't work.
No, you tried it on Dromai and it worked until somebody not named you won something big and then LL Dromai when you couldn't finish. But yeah, so Chrissy Ali on Kasai. Top 8 on this one was Kasai, Kano, 2 Gravy, a Prism, a Cilio, Syndra, and a KO. But again, no Earth Heroes. This is important. This is a theme. And kind of weird.
I would just like to point out that Syndro sounds like the name of a character that would be
Thundercats.
Like a Transformer Kiss player.
No, Thundercats.
Syndro
would be
Syndro is definitely a Thundercat.
You're just saying that because it sounds like Lion-O.
It's Kiss player Thundercats.
You don't. No, there's a whole community.
Oh, that's a different. Okay,
that's a whole different community. I love the furry community. We're just gonna. The flesh. We're just gonna stay out.
Okay. Sure, sounds great. And then there was one more battle hardened this weekend in Seoul, South Korea. This one was won by Ron Sasaki on Syndra, not Syndra. And this top 8 is the Syndra, 3 Gravies, a Dash IO, a Jarl, a KO, and a Dory. So there was a technically an Earth hero in Jarl.
Technically,
but basically Jarl's 0 Earth heroes. He's an ice hero. But so we're about to get into the dev talk, and then after that we're gonna hit the BNR. But what about these top 8s makes you think that change is necessary?
So if you want my opinion,
I do. That's why I fucking asked you to be here.
So and they talk about this in the BNR. This is actually a very, very healthy meta. Like, there's no question about it. Like, there's no especially dominant deck. Even the decks that are at the top are actually very fair, very targetable decks. There's not anything wrong with this meta. And this is actually something that I really appreciate, that Brian Gottlieb has talked about this more than once, that bans are not necessarily a sign of a mistake. Like, I feel like most card games use bans to go, oh, we fucked up, we have to change things.
By most card games, you mean Magic.
I mean, like, some other card games got some cards that probably should have been banned, and, you know, they, like, and even, like, I mean, I'm not going to pretend, like, Duskblade was a good idea, you know.
The only person that does is Peter.
And me. I'm a Duskblade apologist.
No. I've played against Duskblade. We tested LL. It's a bad idea. That card's something. But I do actually think that being able to use bans just to be like, let's freshen things up a bit, you know. Super Slam came out, and we can all be honest, Super Slam didn't actually affect the meta very much. The only decks that got, like, real noticeable new power cards in Super Slam were the decks that were already at the top of the meta, you know.
No, incorrect. Kasai got a card that made her playable towards the top of the meta.
Like, there's a...
And Huntsman got a card that made him at least...
Made them?
Yeah.
Enter considerations.
Sure. Like, all right. Sure. I'm not going to shit on Super Slam. I do actually think, like, it was a cool set, and there were some cards that did a little bit, but nothing in that set dramatically changed the meta. So we've been in a spot where we've kind of had the same meta for what, like 6, 7, 8 months now? Like, when did High Seas come out?
So High Seas would have been... That was January. It was Hunted. So High Seas would have been
April, May. So, like,
yeah. So 6 months.
So, yeah, about 7 months now. And, you know, Compendium's not due for another 2.
January, so a month and a half.
So like we're looking at a meta that where we're going to be functionally in about the same meta for about 9 months, and it's just boring. It's boring. Like it is. Like this meta is from a purely like grand view health of the game. Fine. It's great. It's actually like one of the best metas we've had in quite a long time, but we've been in it for a while.
Forever.
So like, I actually really appreciate the idea that LSS is willing to say, hey, let's just do something different. Let's kind of flip the table. You know, we've got RTN season coming up pretty quickly. And if there were no bans, this RTN season was going to be really boring. It's going to be a lot of the same stuff that we've seen for the last 6 months, just kind of over and over again. No one's going to be really excited about it. No one's going to care. Now, everyone is invested. Everyone is going to be watching these results. Everyone is going to be brewing. Like this like couple of weeks leading up to RTNs, everyone is brewing now. I've been in like 7 Discords right now that are all just a flurry of like, oh God, what do we do? And
definitely not ours. But so let's pull back for just a second and talk about the dev talk. There was a lot in that dev talk, and some of it wasn't as this soul searching thing like they have been in previous ones where things were bad. Instead, they were kind of reveling in that things are good, and outside of the kind of copium with their thoughts on Living Legend, which
I can talk about Living Legend for a while.
It's okay to be wrong. And but let's start with Blitz, because Blitz has been needing to go to the glue factory for a while.
I will tell you, I played the first games of Blitz that I have played in like a year and a half yesterday, and I played the last games of Blitz I will ever play today.
Yeah. So I played in 2 Blitz skirmishes to get my Everbloom life for the cube, and I played Aurora, and that was boring. And then I played Shiana, way less boring. And I did actually get to combo somebody with a bunch of Centauri Cell Swords and a Blazing Aether with an Arc Lightning turn, and that feels pretty good. But it's also wild to think that that's a thing you can do. But Blitz is dead as we knew it. We're going forward. Blitz will not be a competitive format, will not be featured in tier 4 and higher events, on and on and on, or actually even tier 3 events. Instead, it is more of a boutique format for like armories and casual events, and they switched it completely. So Blitz no longer is part of a Living Legend system, and everything is legal. All the heroes are back, and they made it singleton. So they basically made 1v1 commander, if you're familiar with Magic, as a 20 life format. So does it even matter at this point? Like, do we even care?
I mean, like, I'm glad that like the casual people, like, you know, I know like casual fab is like not a huge market, but like I think they do exist. I've got several, you know, pretty casual players near me. Shout out to the Table Pit. They do some amazing casual content. They're pretty excited. I think it's fine. Like Blitz as a format has been dead for a while, I think, like outside of some small communities. So like Silver Age looks like it's going to be a better format, and giving the casual crowd a new format to play around with and do some fun stuff. Like this is an inoffensive change to me.
So agreed. It is a much ado about nothing. It just creates a playground for degenerate people that want to do degenerate things, which, you know, I fit into that, I guess. But I have no interest in this unless it's a wild side event or something, right? Like I would never sign up to play this competitively. No. Not at all. Darick, would you?
Sure.
Oh yeah, because you don't play the game. Never mind.
I probably played it like an
on.
armory, like
so
once every like couple of months, just do something goofy, like throw some stuff together
to get my gem pack and have some
fine
fun.
With that.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Now we kind of go from there to LL. So Living Legend is effectively in mothballs right now.
It got moved on the website down to that spot with UPF.
It did in special whatever formats, along with Blitz actually. So if we think about the Living Legend format now, like Brian said, we were in a happy spot with LL and the prep that people put in, the technology they found, blah, blah, blah. And they somehow came to the conclusion that people liked playing LL.
And they came to the conclusion that people found some cool tech. I will agree with that.
Sure. But I don't know a single person that enjoyed LL, specifically at Worlds, or really at the Calling.
Yeah.
That was in Philadelphia.
It was an interesting format.
Yeah. But, this is one where they're putting it away and thinking to revisit it later. I don't know how you do anything with Living Legend to make it not what it is.
So if you want to seriously try to make Living Legend a like real format, it has to go one of two ways. Either you make it vintage or you make it legacy. If you want to make it legacy, you ban like 30 more cards and just make it a high-powered CC kind of environment. If you want to make it vintage, you unban a bunch of stuff and go let the broken decks do broken things. And I think kind of the issue is LL sort of wants to be both of these things at the same time, and it just like doesn't work, where we're like banning some broken things but then like leaving other broken things. Like, like we banned RuneGate Chain sort of, but then like allegedly. But then like we banned like we banned some of the broken decks, but then like other broken decks are just like still kind of rampant, and it makes for just a weird format where you still have the broken things but you just have less broken things available to you. Like I do think LL at Worlds, some cool tech was found, some interesting things were done, and that's great. But like those things have now been found. There's not much to go on from there without like more major upheaval, and then you just get this format that is just in constant either it's going to stagnate very quickly or it's going to be in constant upheaval because you're not getting injections from sets. It's just like your change is only going to really come from either like major innovations, which aren't going to happen that often, or major ban lists. And that, for a format that they've already said they don't want to be like really heavy babysitting that format, is just kind of not something that I think LSS wants or is really capable of doing right now. So like LL was fun for a little bit. I think I'm sort of down with their path of, we were happy with the one tournament, we're done with it now.
Sure. And I mean, it kind of is odd that we have two formats that have kind of been nuked, which is Blitz and LL, and both of them have been featured at World Championships. And both times players were kind of like, never again. Please don't. Okay. So I think you're right when it comes, and I don't say that to you often, but I do think that you're right in that LL needs to go one of two directions to be viable in any way, shape, or form. And the legacy version of LL, it needs a ton of curation to be, but then you're talking about CC plus, right? Like, who cares? Just play CC.
Exactly.
Here's the answer to your question. Here's the people who care. The people who really like their old legends. The people who want to identify with their hero.
She's right there.
I understand that.
It's a good point. Like, that's exactly it.
that is the appeal of the Living Legend format. And if I'm being honest, I also think that's why it's so poorly received. Because at the end of the day, when you're forced to play it competitively for Worlds, if you look at it and you're like, well, I still only have, 2 or 3 decks to choose from, and none of them are the hero I fell in love with, right? All the Icelander players, the Dromai players, whatever, you look at your field and you're like, well, I can't even play the thing I wanted to. That's the problem. I think that the solution is, unfortunately, it just requires a format that will need heavy babysitting. But the more I think about it, the more I kind of really like the idea of what I pitched the last time we talked about this, Logan, a rotating league of sorts.
Yep.
So you call it the Legend League, and it's, it's every 3 months or every 6 months or whatever it is. And you're just like, these are the heroes that are illegal in it. And it could be a mix of old and new or whatever. You throw a ban list with it and you just shotgun at the wall. And if it doesn't work, that's great, because it's only going to last a couple months anyway. And then you get a new smattering of heroes. I think that gives people the opportunity to still have a chance to dig their favorite hero, out of the vault. And I think that it also would give new players a chance to experience some of those old heroes, but without like the commitment to like, we have to balance this thing as is forever. Because I think that's the problem, right? Is it's one thing that we're already trying to balance Classic Constructed in a legacy format, right? Where everything is legal forever, except for what's on the ban lists. So just give us, again, it could be it doesn't even have to be thematic, right? It could just be a smattering of heroes that you're just like, hey, I want to see how these work in their own little bubble. I think that's fine.
Right. And since we've mentioned it twice in the show now, it's guaranteed to happen. But I think that you're onto something. Because a lot of fighting games do some of, because they have 75,000 characters per game, kind of do something similar where, you have these characters are legal right now, the rest are gone. And then you rotate through that. I think that's not necessarily an answer for LL. I think that's an answer for, again, making an in-between format, which we have definitely advocated for. But it's, first they have to determine that there's a need for it. And I'm not sure that determination is coming. I think that they're very happy with CC. They talked in the dev talk about how after Compendium, everything in the pipeline is draftable. So Limited is not going anywhere. Thank God. And so we have this spot where I think that they're okay with life being CC and Limited for competitive play.
I do think they're pushing Silver Age pretty hard.
They are, and I think they should. Because it is, and they talk about this heavily, where Silver Age is a budget accessible competitive format. And they're talking up the Silver Age, chapter decks at, a $20 a pop, them being out of the box competitive. And if they truly deliver on that, and that's the case, which shouldn't be hard. Like, let's be real here. It's not that hard to throw a bunch of Blade Beckoner equipment and high quality rares in a deck. And you won't piss off the people who are screaming about their card values. Because that $20 is probably as much or more than it would cost to just build the deck by buying the cards singly. You're just dodging having to do it on your own.
I do also think we're talking about like doing like the like kind of rotating Living Legend format. Like I think it's a really cool idea, but that's a format that's also going to take a lot of babysitting that I just don't think they have the resources for. I think the
bandwidth, right? Yeah.
I do want to say one other thing before we get too far off of LL. While I have a platform and I want to take advantage of a platform, the Dash.io deck at Living Legend, the deck that took over that fucking format. That deck was insane. Did you guys saw that deck? The ludicrous combo Dash.io deck. I'm going to be humble for a second. I knew about that deck for months. months before an in-hand.
Sure.
I'm going to give a huge shout out. Dude by the name of Austin Henry, good friend of mine. I test with him on occasion. He's in our little testing group with our local regionals. Super phenomenal, good player. That's his deck. That was his baby. He's been working on that deck for like months. He showed me that deck and I told him it was garbo. I'll be honest. He showed me the deck. I was like, what the fuck is this? This looks like this is actual humility out of you. This is not what I expected. Terrible. I was so wrong. I was like, what the fuck is this? How does this deck even work? And he's just like, let me show you.
Greg, I was so wrong as something that I can use as a Discord emote. Because, oh my God, that has happened exactly once.
Yeah, I was fucking wrong. I'll tell you, I played that deck at fucking Worlds. I was fucking last, like literally my deck list is due in like an hour and I'm frantically texting Austin. I'm like, Austin, what the fuck do I do? How do I make all these matches work? Please help. Oh God, help. And he's like, I am at dinner. I will call you later. And I'm like, my deck list is due in an hour, Austin. I need this. Deck is fucking phenomenal. Its build is immaculate. Austin is a hell of a player. And I think that deck kind of came out, took over everything, and I want to make sure this motherfucker gets the props. Austin Henry, watch for the name. Dude is coming.
Austin Henry, you have your flowers, and allegedly you're coming.
That's
a lot
everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
This is Mara being humble enough to understand this dude deserves these props, and I want people to know that name because that deck dominated Henry. Worlds, and the dude that made it is not getting enough credit.
Fair enough. Austin Henry, you have been called out as a supreme deck builder and an up-and-comer. So if you don't do anything soon, that means Mara was wrong again. So either you're really good at this and that's awesome and you got your props for the first time on this show, or Mara was wrong again. This is win-win, baby. Like I am.
Wait, but I was wrong the first time about this. Oh, I can be wrong a lot. Don't underestimate the amount of times I can be wrong. I can be wrong a lot of times.
No shit. Boy, howdy.
Yeah, you were wrong before we even started recording because you said KISS players were problematic.
Oh God, Darick, no, no, Darick, bad Darick.
This is you heard it here first. Darick likes KISS players.
That is what you heard. I can't deny that that's what was said, and I probably need to be auditioning for a new co-host. That's not true. Darick is here to keep me on the rails. He is the dry and he's the what do they call it? The straight man to my
there's definitely some railing happening. That's
sure yeah, enough. There sure is. So the next thing that was, you alluded to this earlier, actually, Mara, that was discussed in the dev talk was the need to shake up CC. Now, I want to say that this does, to me, feel like using the ban list in lieu of rotation. And I've really wrestled with this. I've thought about this a lot. And particularly with the BNR announcement that we got, this is a Sunday. They announced shit.
Yeah.
We actually can talk about it. It's insane.
I think they thought you had already recorded, so they were safe to announce it.
I think so too. Yeah. They saw that we recorded very early with the Hammer, since he was in Switzerland. Like, oh, they record in the mornings on Sunday, so we're good. Which is untrue. But they alluded to using the ban list almost as a form of rotation. So when the format feels stale, they can make bans, they can make changes and shake things up, make things a little bit more interesting, approachable, different, fresh, whatever. They also made sure to talk about how they feel like that this meta, as you talked about as well, is one of the healthier meta games we've seen. But you're right. We're at the point this metagame is effectively 7 months old. And we've seen the same real triangle of heroes-ish in those 7 months since Gravy Bones was printed, in that it's Syndra, Gravy, and an Earth hero. It was Florian originally, and then they cut the legs off of Florian, and it became Verdance. Now, neither of those is really putting up results. But Syndra and Gravy are still the top of the metagame.
I would argue that Verdance is still the top of the metagame, even though, so like, you're not seeing Verdance putting up a lot of results, but you're not seeing Verdance put up a lot of results partially because Verdance is the top of the metagame. Because the metagame is warped. Yeah, Verdance is very much warping what decks are allowed to be played, because there's a lot of decks that just cannot play into Verdance. We kind of talked a little bit off camera, I think. Decks like Fang, like, can't exist because Scour just exists. Like, Fang is just not a hero right now because Scour is just a card. Vincent's even a little bit in that. Not that I think Vincent is like an S tier hero, but like she has the same problem where like Scour just exists, so Vincent can't exist. There are a lot of decks that just cannot deal with Verdance's just turn after turn value engine. And I think that holds a lot of things out of the meta. And so like, even though Verdance isn't putting up results, Verdance isn't putting up results partially because Verdance is the top of the meta.
Sure. And I think that you have a good point in that is a reason for all of this. But if we think through this, so let's just dive into the BNR, right? Because we start with Rootbound Carapace banned. All colors. Card not playable in Classic Constructed. And that is the glue of sort of Florian and Verdance's game plans. To have this card that is defensive, allows them to navigate turn after turn, and also fuels their decompose.
It is definitely a card that is like not fundamentally broken on its own, but is a card that just checks all the boxes. And losing that is definitely going to be felt, even though like it is not like, them banning Felling of the Crown.
Right, sure. It's actually, I think that's a good thing to bring up. I think it's more impactful than banning Felling of the Crown.
I think it is more impactful if you don't want to just cripple the deck. I think if Felling the Crown gets banned, then Verdance is probably just not a deck.
Right, but if my argument here is if you block with a Felling, which happens a lot, Verdance blocks with Felling quite a bit. You blocked with a Felling. You put an Earth card in the graveyard. If you react with a Rootbound, not only do you get the block value, you get the decompose value plus the Earth card in the graveyard. You get more.
Sure, but if you attack with a Felling, you get to put the Earth cards in the graveyard and your opponent's card on the bottom. And if you attack with a Rootbound, then you get a Judge Call, and then it gets messy. And then
sure. But I would say that on average, you see maybe a Felling attack 1.5 times a game versus a Rootbound defending 6 times a game.
Most of this have not been on yellow. They've been on like 0 to 1 yellows for a while now. They have been trimming it, but like,
sure.
I do agree with you. Like, I think Rootbound is an incredibly important piece of the puzzle. Also, a thing talking about the Fellings is Felling as your first decompose is kind of terrible. So like that first decompose is often the most important for Verdance, and for Florian. And Rootbound is just the best first decompose you can get. So yeah, like by miles. So like losing that does actually kick a lot of the power out of their early game. Where now they're actually playing below rate on their first couple of turns, a little bit worse. Where like either they're like playing a Felling or a Plow for less than ideal value, or they're having to play something like Cadaver's Tailing or those kind of cards where they're like, it's fine, but if you're playing a Cadaver's on the first couple of turns of the game, you're just like, your opponent's just gonna be like, cool, whatever, I'll take some damage, move on.
Or they're having to block with these cards.
But I'm talking about I'm talking about just getting that first decompose. Whereas like Rootbound as your first decompose was just like, cool, I got a 4 value block. Now I'm set for all my other stuff. Everything else is online. We're good.
Right. Yep. So I think that's like highly impactful. That does change. And again, I think if you read through this BNR, I think the entire purpose of it was to break the triangle and make the last part less obvious. Which leads us to the next thing, which is chart the high seas being banned. Now, I thought and actually advocated that an ally needed to go, specifically Chum. And that you could ban Chum and bring back at least a color of Tipple, and things would probably be fine. This is cutting the ceiling from the deck.
Yeah.
Like, you're destroying their high rolls. And I honestly, the more I've thought about this is a more elegant ban than my thought process.
I actually really think this is an interesting ban.
Mine was more transformational. This is letting the deck exist as is. You don't really change the floor that much, but you definitely change the ceiling.
You also open up some holes in their defense. Right. I think Gravy's fatigue plan gets a little bit worse. Because like Whaler Humperdinck, so you're talking about like you want to ban an ally. Whaler Humperdinck is now much harder to cast. Because like that's like one of your big end game plans is to try and set up these like chart the high seas into Whaler turns, especially if you can go like chart the high seas into Whaler with back alley break line, and then you can set up these really big powerful turns, and that's just gone now. I think there's a good chance that Gravy now has to go back to oh god, you're gonna make me remember the name of that card that's on no play, the one that makes your next two allies cost 3 less. Yeah, I think that's the one. It's got the flag on it. I think it's Give No Quarter. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think they probably have to end up going back to that, and that is just like significantly worse. Also, the part that doesn't get talked about as much.
Yeah. Give No Quarter. I was right for once.
It also does strip another gold generator out of the deck. It's not their
right,
biggest one. It's not their most reliable one, but you know. After losing Tipple, the deck is already scraping by a little bit on its ability to generate gold, and losing, like 3 chart the high seas is probably like 1 to 2 extra gold over the course of a game, and like that does add up. I actually think most of these bans, they do a really good job of, and talking about your consideration of using a ban list as rotation versus just actual rotation, and why I will argue for this method until I run out of breath. It gives them so much more granular control. Like, we've both played lots of games with full on rotations, and there's no granularity to it. When rotation happens, these cards are gone. And here we get to say, okay, we're not going to ban Felling, we're not going to ban Chum. Because I think if you ban Felling, you ban Chum, those decks crater. Like, they're still playable, but they lose a humongous amount of the power that makes them strong. But we're going to say, no, we're going to ban the next tier down. These cards that are just like very consistent, very, very solid. And these cards that just kind of make the decks just a little bit better than every other deck. Because like, I think one of the things about that really defines to me most of the best decks in Flesh and Blood is consistency. It's that ability to do the same thing over and over every game. And hitting those consistency pieces doesn't take the ceiling off of these decks, but just makes them stumble a little bit more often, makes them struggle a little bit more frequently. And I think that's a good way to really tone some of these decks down without just cutting them off at the knees. And I love it. I like seeing it. I think it's exciting. I'm super excited to see where this format shapes up.
Yeah, again, I think that there's a bit of elegance to the thought process. And we don't want to cause a rotation, and chart the high seas on the surface isn't a problematic card, although one could argue. It's a high value card and it enables these high ceiling turns. So getting rid of it makes it so that you have to play a different blue if you want that same type of effect, so that your allies, your Watery Grave is turned on to enable your turn. So Give No Quarter being the example here. I think that making them shy away from high roll to play more consistently. And also, you brought this up, making it so that your top end ally is much more difficult to pull off, brings the deck ceiling down enough that you don't feel like you're out of agency playing against it. And I think that was part of the problem. Is you watch like the Paul Van Giesel finals against Ash.io, and Conquerors in hand, activate your what the fuck is thing? The stupid compass thing. Activate your compass, and then you see a back alley break line on top and kind of just laugh, right? Because you play the chart, you pitch the compass, the next one's a yellow, you discard it for the gold, and you end up with a fucking action point, 3 resources. You have a Conquerors in your arsenal, you have a Conquerors in hand with a blue. This shit is done. Like, this is as cooked gets. And he took a deep sigh when he saw that. If you watch it on stream again, and the sigh wasn't, I didn't see it. The sigh was, well, fuck. Like, I feel bad that I'm about to do this to another human being. And this kind of takes that away. And I think that's relevant. The next one is mind-boggling because it's a lot more than you think it is. So, brand with Cinderclaw, all colors is banned, and Wrath of Retribution as well. So, Wrath.
I don't think there was any argument for Wrath. That was
right. I think that was kind of a known, right? Here is a one card 16 sometimes.
Pretty good.
And it's egregious. And that, sure. I think everybody kind of thought that Wrath was going to go. I thought it would be Wrath and Ignite. I thought that was pretty fair. But Brand is another category.
This is probably the one that I was not expecting. I think I was with you. I figured it was going to be a starter.
Right.
Just like one of the, because again, just like with chart, where you're just taking one of their just like draconic head jabs that's just like a good starter that just hurts their consistency just a little bit. They picked the best one in the deck.
They did, because they effectively have not only banned Brand with Cinderclaw, they've effectively banned at least some number of Art of Dragon Fire and Art of Dragon Blood.
That one's actually I hesitate to say it's banned, but it makes it.
So I said some number up.
Makes it a question. And it's actually the one thing, like they talk about this a little bit in the BNR announcement. I actually think this is kind of interesting, where Syndras now have to make that choice of, do I want to lean a little bit more into the fealty generators to make those powerful effects happen? Or do I want to lean more into just the raw consistency? And if that's the way they go, then I agree with you that you're probably you're going to have to cut some number of those Art of Dragons. But like there's a possible where like they end up going the other way, where they just go lean heavier into the fealty and then they get to still play them.
But they're very glass cannon.
It's less glass cannon. I think just more like they're more unstable. You introduce more fail states to where like you can draw these cards like Art of Dragon Blood in particular, where like if you draw Art of Dragon Blood and you have a fealty available, that card is cracked bonkers. And if you don't, that card is
it's 1%
awful. So like if you lean farther into that, you get the power, but you lose the consistency. And if you lean the other way, you get the consistency, but you're losing power. And so there's a very real trade-off there. Still going to significantly hurt that deck no matter what. I'm a little sad that Fi eats some real splash damage here. We've actually been seeing just a little bit of Fi creep up. And yeah.
Shout out to Ellie Bird.
And I think this hurts Fi more than it hurts Syndra.
Yes. In as much as it makes Syndra differently playable, it makes Fi unplayable.
I don't know that it makes Fi unplayable. Asterisk, I have not played Fi in a while, but I don't know that it makes him unplayable. But it does. I think it does significantly impact that deck, and that deck was only just kind of barely finding its footing.
Right, and it's a draconic starter, right? Like tailor-made for all of these decks.
I think the biggest thing with Fi is that even if he is still playable, getting rid of Cinderclaw makes him unflexible, right? Because any of your deck building deviations would have been like, what do I include that I'm planning on playing post brand, right? Because there's a certain critical mass of the Draconic that you have to have, and him more so than Syndra already, in my opinion. So you can't really afford to put those on the chopping block. So I think that even if Fi does still find a home, you will not see very much deviation in the deck list at all from player to player.
Yeah, that's accurate. I mean, it is, kind of coming off that, it's weird how homogenous Syndra lists were. And Fi kind of suffered from that as well. Like, Syndra lists were within 4 cards of each other almost entirely the entire time.
There's been a little bit of deviation where like you started seeing some of the lists running like more defense reactions into the mirror and a couple of the other aggro matchups, and that was kind of interesting. You saw some interesting sideboard tech. I think the main core decks were pretty standard. But I think you did see some interesting deviation in sideboard, but for the most part, I think I agree. Like the Syndra deck, pretty much since that deck first made its debut at Memphis, has not really fundamentally changed very much.
No. But as far as Fi goes, it's sort of been a playground, because trying to make the deck just better numbers wise than something like Syndra was kind of a good luck making that work. But people have pulled it off. Again, shout out to Ellibird. Last one I'm going to turn over because I don't know what the fuck to think about this, but Orb Weaver, blue and yellow are banned. Tell me what.
Charmer, I want to hear your thoughts on this first.
I feel like this is both them trying to do something else in Assassin that potentially hurts consistency, but also I think that this is a preemptive thing with Slippy potentially as well. Post Armory deck. The big thing that jumps out to me is, as weird as it sounds, it hurts the Assassin. It hurts the worst is just like not getting played at all right now, and that's Uzuri. Uzuri wants as many ways to make the Kalisari as possible, because then you always have something that you can ship even if you don't have the stealth card, and then do your Swapperoo. So it kind of sucks in that regard. But what this really does, specifically for, maybe Slippy Post Armory deck, but even now with Mario, is the less ways you have to replace a dagger, the less comfortable you might be with just freely using flick knives like every turn. So this feels like one of those things that are like they're just kind of trying to attack the consistency a little bit, or at least, and the reason I think that they're targeting the Orb Weavers is that they're ones where you don't have to pay for the retrieve. Like that's the other thing that jumps out to me. It is your free option. And so if you're getting rid of the ones that you could just throw in as a, hey, this is just going to be my blue or my yellow for the turn, but also in a pinch, if I need a dagger or whatever, this will get me one. You're just kind of like lowering the floor a little bit. So
unlike Upsticks where you have to pay for it.
It's not one of those things. Yeah. I mean, this is really, in my opinion, this is just like an economy hit, because you're either making you have to pay for the retrieve, or you're taking away some of the quality blues and yellows. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, but I'll be honest, like I'm surprised that this was the hit. Like if they were going to hit anything with Assassin, I would have expected it to be something else, but seeing it in conjunction with everything else we're seeing here, it really does feel like all of the bans this time around were attempts to hit consistency. I think that that's the theme throughout all of these, and that this was just in the same theme as that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really hard to argue with. Like that might be the smartest thing you've said ever. Oh, no, sorry. Second, saying I do to Sophie was.
I was just about to say, literally.
By miles.
Yes.
But this might be number 2. Saying yes to this show is way down at the bottom.
Do you think Slippy starts running Whittle from Bone? I think Mario probably can't run it, right? But like Slippy Whittle from Bone is actually kind of an interesting one.
Slippy has the potential to. I was already running that with my Uzuri lists because, again, I think that she just wants as many ways to make the graphing calculator as possible.
TI-85 bitches.
Because it gives you some more opportunities, but Slippy gets a lot of value from the dagger just because even if they're not marked, you can still give that dagger opener go again, right? So it is a very kind of like free point with any of your leftover resources. So I don't know if Slippy starts running Whittle just because I don't know that you want to go heavy on marking for the future of Slippy. I think Slippy might end up being
full disclosure. I forgot that was a mark thing. I thought it was just an auto equip.
No,
no, that's why the Orb Weaver.
Yeah, fair enough. That card's significantly worse than I thought it was. My bad. I thought it was just Orb Weaver without go again.
No.
All right, never mind. Yeah, no, I retract that statement. That's my bad.
Yeah.
Let's go to a little bit of the cleanup step here and round the horn, starting with you, Mara. What hero gains the most from this?
Fuck if I know. We've been just like every Discord that I'm in right now, like all of the like testing groups and testing teams that I'm in, all right 75 now, have all been just discussing what the fuck happens now, which I think is cool, and I'm super here for it. But like, this changes so much. Like, this is such a big, like, we all expected an upheaval. Like, everybody was braced saying like, okay, they're gonna change a lot, and somehow just not only just trimming off the top, we gutted huge consistency chunks from the top 4 decks all the way down. So like, I mean, like, logic says we have to start at like the tier 2 decks, and I expect the current tier 2 are probably going to be the biggest winners here. I mean, we're going to see decks like Kasai, I think, picks up a little bit, RKO, regular KO is such a weird deck. When Super Slam came out, everybody was like talking about KO and how much stuff KO got. Literally, we had a conversation in my team's testing chat when Super Slam first came out of, should we start testing KO for Worlds, or would we just assume that he's gonna LL in ProQuest season? And then then the results came out and nothing happened. It was the biggest whimper of a nothing for a deck that had so much hype. And I'll be honest, like, I don't know exactly why. Like, the deck unquestionably gained powerful cards. But like, they just didn't. Yeah.
Still
like,
can't fucking block.
But like, I also think like KO also has a lot of problems with what is the current top of the meta. Decks like, talk about decks that Verdance I think really kept down. KO just can't really handle Verdance. Like, because KO's deck is like, I want to do numbers, and Verdance is like, you want to do numbers? Oh, let's do numbers. I like numbers.
Ooh.
Here's my felling of
I like
round.
you,
Mathy. So like, I think KO has to be a deck that like is at least in discussion. Like, I think Prism gets interesting, which Prism has already been kind of, skirting the edge. Shout out to a friend of the channel, Kevin Murphy, top 16 calling Seattle. Yeah.
A big friend.
Pro Tour top 8 competitor, Kevin Murphy. But then also, like, we see decks like, Victor has kind of been dancing around a little bit and has just not been able to. Yeah, where like is another deck that just like couldn't really beat Verdance, couldn't really beat Gravy, but like,
well, Guardian,
but like is another deck that just has numbers, but like just couldn't quite push over these number blocker decks like Verdance and Gravy. Dash.io we've seen do some real things for a while. What else? we've had so many, like, this is why we're talking about this being a healthy meta. We've had so many of these like decks, like, I think we just saw I think we saw an RKO in top 8 this weekend. Was it?
No.
Was it heavy chaos this weekend
heavy
in Seattle? Okay.
Yeah, it was heavy.
But I think RKO is a deck that is also very underexplored, and we've started to see a little bit of murmuring of RKO. That deck is good. That deck's really good. And it's just a lot of these decks that do very efficient numbers. The real question, though, to me.
Oh no, it was
okay.
Actually
I thought it was
underhanded cheat. It was RKO.
Yeah.
I was cuck, not the other one.
The biggest question and why this is such an upheaval is not just like, okay, so like normally when you see bans like this, you go, okay, this deck got banned. What decks lost to this that were doing well in the rest of the meta? Because like normally that's how you want to evaluate bans, but because there's so much gone, then you just like you slide the rest of this up a chunk. But then now we have to look at like, okay, now we've got like 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 even decks that all gain from this ban. But now we have to look at those decks into each other. Where like on paper, like Dash.io has been doing very well in this meta. So like if you got the top 4 of this meta, in theory, Dash.io should be doing great. But if we're talking about, like we just said, decks like Victor, if everyone gains and then suddenly Victor is a great deck, Dash.io is cursed into Victor. That matchup is terrible. So then Dash.io goes up. Yeah.
Get trounced.
You still haven't said the deck that I think is gaining the most, so I'm like waiting to see if we get that.
He's baited.
I mean, like I genuinely think there's a lot of decks on this list.
There's a lot that gain, but the question was which one do you think gains
my honest answer to gains the most is I have no clue. I think there are so many variables right now. I think it's almost impossible to say exactly what deck gains the most because so many decks lost, but then now we have to reevaluate the entire metagame, and it's
but accept that you can be wrong and then just pick one.
I mean, like, I'm gonna just say Fang because I like Fang, and if Verdance drops down a peg and also lost a D-React, that's good for Fang, and I like Fang. And lost
Kano.
Yeah.
Who played Scour.
Right. So Kano is the big reason why I have my selection. So I think the deck that gains the most from the combination of the BNRs and Kano going away, because people will obviously bring less AB. I think it's Acilio. Acilio's been very consistent like Dash.io. I think that Acilio's matchups are still going to be there just because like Gravy gets hit or whatever. I think Gravy's still just shown that the popularity of that hero is going to push it forward. But I think that if you see a rise in a Victor, and I do think decks like Victor, I think RKO will become a bit more popular. I wouldn't even be surprised if we see like Ira pop back up again, but I think Acilio is better. I'll put it this way. I think Acilio is better into a Victor than a Dash is, just because even with like less cards in hand, you can try to like go over the top if they don't respect the AB or whatever. So I don't know. I think Acilio is in a really good spot right
that was
now.
one I probably should have mentioned. I actually do really like Acilio. I think Acilio's got a lot of potential. But then also we get into the same thing again, where like if we see a big rise in Dash.io, that matchup is terrible for Acilio. But if we see a lot of Victor, I think Acilio is significantly better into Victor than Dash.io. So like there's a lot of this is going to be like there's a bunch of decks that all got a boost, but we kind of have to wait for the dust to settle to see like, okay, who got the most boost so that then we can start shaping what decks are good into what. And it's going to be really interesting. A boost. Yeah.
Boost,
I do say.
Yeah. Boost. Mine is, my homer pick is Kasai.
I actually think Kasai
mainly because
looks a lot better right now. I think Kasai's been pretty solid for a while.
You no longer have to pick 2 points of the triangle to be good into. You can just be good into all 3. That is with the caveat of decks that get better.
I was about to say Kasai's Acilio is a little sketchy.
It's real sketchy. But the one that I think people don't think of right now is actually Pleiades.
That's not one I had on my list.
That deck. That deck was cursed into gravy because of the high rolls, and was very bad into Verdance for all the reasons that Guardian is bad into Verdance. But man, that deck's as a numbers game. If we're going into a straight numbers game where Verdance is down a peg, that deck gets good. And plays on different axes that people are not accustomed to playing on. So you end up in this spot where I think like a Pleiades or even a Lyeth can be very good all of a sudden. And it would not surprise me to see them kind of starting to bubble up a little bit, because some of the natural predation is no longer there. And they can kind of do their thing a little bit better and more efficiently. Whereas if you have to block with a 2-block fucking aura, you feel like shit. Like, here's this up on a pedestal that is no longer a pedestal. It's just on the fucking floor because I had to do something different with it than I wanted to. And if they can avoid those things and avoid those pitfalls and play that even match numbers game, it's pretty good. It's hard for me to not say Kasai, mainly because having played a ton of that deck, the calculus was always, okay, I can beat 2 of the 3 best decks based on configuration. What the fuck do I do about the third? And if you get to a spot, well, that like a lot of that changes with Kano just gone. So if you ever walked into an event with Kasai thinking I need to beat Kano, you just have to get lucky. Like, you just have to accept that, be lucky.
I will say, like, talking about like the big changes, like, Kano was not like top of the meta, but Kano was existent enough in the meta that like losing Kano does mean every deck does gain a couple of sideboard slots. And that's not irrelevant when we go into these wider metas. Because like clearly this is about to be a very, very wide meta for a while. And one of the things that's kind of tricky in wide metas is finding enough sideboard slots to target everything you need to target. And so like stripping Kano out of the equation does mean every deck gets a couple more sideboard slots, which does make things a little bit more interesting, especially against decks like Acilio. Acilio is a deck that there is a sideboard card everyone can play. Echoes is a great card against Acilio for any deck that wants to play it, but most decks just don't have the room. So, losing those Kano slots, maybe more decks start packing Amulet of Echoes, especially if we start seeing more Acilio, which then affects Acilio standing in a way that's not immediately obvious.
Right. Yep. One quick other thing, there was a Battle Hardened in Seattle. That was a Silver Age Battle Hardened. Now,
I did not see the results for this one at all. I kind of forgot. I got distracted.
This is fun.
Is it 6 chains?
Worth noting, it is not. There's the correct number of chains.
8. But
the 2 chains.
2 chains.
But so one quick thing, the reason I don't want to spend too much time on it is the Silver Age blurb off the LSS website. It is worth taking this opportunity to remind fans of Silver Age that the format is currently in an early access state. We do not intend to begin active management of the Silver Age format until after the release of Compendium of Wraith, at which time the format will be reviewed on the same cadence as Classic Constructed. So a lot of these results are very just like, this shit ain't going to be real for a while. But it was won by Andrew Rothwell.
Good job, Andrew.
On chain.
I like Andrew.
Okay.
Andrew's good people.
Good job, Andrew.
Yeah. Good people. There were 2 chains in the top 8, along with 2 Briars, a Bravo Flattering Showman, an Ira, an Olympia, because that's fucking
I didn't know
bullshit.
That was a real deck.
Decimator Olympia in Sage.
I did know that was a real deck.
Goddamn
That's
nightmare.
right. We were talking about this over in wherever the fuck we were at together last Worlds. That one.
Worlds.
That's right. I remember.
Yep. And then Oldham. So these are again worth noting that this result exists. Chain has kind of established that they're the top end of
Chain's real fucked up,
Silver
y'all.
Age right now.
That deck is good.
Which means Chain probably just gets community
or
banned
at least just eats a couple more bans.
I think Runeblade just gets community banned,
it.
honestly, in general. Although Bravo Flattering Showman has been very good in Sage. So there is that to notice as well. But community, I do love that for the community bans, you have to have played in a Silver Age event.
Yeah, I kind of figured that was going to be the case. Otherwise, you're just going to have we've all seen what happens when you let the internet vote on things. Do you want a Betsy ban? Because that's how you get a Betsy ban.
That's how you get a Betsy ban. Yep. But I just wanted to do that quick little shout out there. We do have a bunch of listener questions. Mara,
I did not actually read the listener questions in advance. Oh, good. All right.
Fantastic. Please don't. First one's from Marowak.
Hi,
hey,
nice to see you.
Hosts. First time asking. Hello, nice to see you. First time asking, long time audio only listening. How far round trip are you willing to travel that isn't by plane for a fab event in one day? For an example, round trip, I'll travel 2 hours for an armory. That's fucking insane. 4.5 hours for a skirmish. Also fucking insane. 6 hours for a pro quest. 12 hours, 6 hours up on a Friday, 6 hours back on a Sunday for calling. So I am out on your armory travel. I think my max round trip is like maybe 40 minutes. That's heavy traffic.
About 40 minutes. Shout out, however, to a friend of the show, Diana the Green Cosplayer. She lives a little over an hour north of me. And she and I carpool to our armories every Sunday. So she drives an hour down to me, gets in my car, and then we drive another like 40 minutes. So she drives nearly 2 hours to our armories. So like shout out to Diana for the dedication.
Crazy.
But I don't go visit
Darick
her.
Doesn't go to armories. Yeah, Darick doesn't actually go to armories, so we don't have to worry about that. Are you willing to travel for them though, Darick?
Yeah, of course.
You just don't?
It's just a night timing thing. Like,
fair.
I only have so many free, like, open nights, and the ones that are closest to me, there's one that is like 15, 20 minutes away.
One way.
That's one way, right? So, that is the one that is on like nights that I record other shows on. So that's the one I can't make. There is another one that's like 40 minutes away one way. But they also run that on Fridays. And so like, that's also difficult because if I'm like traveling for events or whatever, then I can't make that one anyway.
Travel for events. That's cute.
I also just realized this question does say round trip 2 hours to armory. Okay. That makes these numbers way more reasonable. Because that's if they're talking about 2 hours for armory, like an hour down, an hour back, that is about where I'm at too. That I would travel.
I'm not doing that.
Armory. Like I said, I do about 40 minutes and like 20 more minutes. Yeah,
20 there, 20 back. That's it.
Yeah, and then there is another store that's like 30 minutes one way away from me, but it's just not one that I try to like patronize if I can help it for reasons. So like that's the big thing. It's mostly just a night issue as opposed to like the travel issue. For like RTNs, pro quests, things like that. I've driven as far as 2 hours away one way. I would be willing to go further if I had somebody else to drive me, but because of my car collapsy, I can't really like go too many longer distances unless it's going to be like a weekend thing or whatever, or basically it's not going to be like there and back same day sort of thing at that point. So
sure. I think for like a skirmish round trip, maybe 3 hours, depending on prizes. Pro quests, RTNs, probably 5 hours is my max. 5 or 6. I think 6 is fine. For a calling, 20 hours. Like, I think Columbus, oh shit, I can't even say that because I've driven to Pittsburgh. But normally, like, Columbus is my range, which is 10 hours a one way, so 20 hours. And that's, I will point out, like, caveat to Columbus is, and also Memphis for that matter, the caveat there is that there are no direct flights from Des Moines. So it would take me as long to fly to Columbus in most cases, counting like airport time and waiting and shit, as it would to take me to just drive there anyway. So why not just drive there and be more comfortable? Kind of same story with Memphis. There just isn't flights. If that changes and we wind up with a direct to Columbus, I'll fly the shit out of that. Like, no problem. But as of right now, 20 hours for a calling or higher.
So I'm curious, Logan. So you said 20 minutes for your armories. Would that change if you didn't have other armories? Like if you're close, because like my closest armory is about 35-40 minutes. So like I'm willing to drive 35-40 minutes to an armory because that is the closest armories to me.
So my closest armory is 3 minutes away.
What is your range? If that is the closest, like if those are your only armories available, what is the actual? Because I think that's the real better question. Like obviously, if I have 10 armories, 5 minutes drive from me, I'm not driving 20 minutes to an armory. If those are your only armory options, what is the max you're willing to drive? I think an hour each way is probably like where I'd be at.
Like the hard part for me is finding that amount of time.
That's why I asked the question, because I think that's the more like interesting discussion is if that is your only option, what is the amount you're willing to drive?
Sure. So there's a Tuesday armory that happens in town that is 20 minutes away. There's a Wednesday armory that's 20 minutes away. There's a some other day of the week, I think Thursday armory, that is like 15 minutes away. There's a Friday armory that is 45 minutes away. Hi, kitty. And there is a Saturday armory that's legit less than a mile from my house. So I have options. I would get roasted if I said I make any of them regularly because I don't.
From your house and you don't make it regularly. That's insane to me. I know.
Because it's on Saturdays and I am a fucking busy individual. Shitty a lot of the time, but sometimes it's very rewarding. So when it comes to travel, I will sometimes make it to one of the 20-minute ones. No chance on the 45s. And sometimes make the 3-minute one, and we'll go to the skirmishes or whatever as long as I'm available. If I only had one available to me that was 20 minutes away, or 40 minutes away, that would really depend on day of the week. And but if it was the only one, I would probably try to make a point of making it. But
sure,
that's not the case around here.
So I think my breakdown is, I think my skirmish number is probably about an hour. Okay, cat. Oh god, cat, go away. All right, sorry. She decided she wanted down with claws. Yeah.
No, that happens a lot.
So yeah. Like I say, I do 2 armories a week most weeks, and they're about like 30 to 40 minutes away. I think an hour is pretty reasonable. Skirmishes, unless I really like the format, I pretty much...
Or the promo.
Maybe, or if I really wanted the promos. Usually I go to my local skirmishes and that's it. I don't really travel for skirmishes. I think the only time I've ever traveled for skirmish was last skirmish season when it was LL, and I really, really just wanted to play Dromai and had to miss our local skirmish for some reason or another. And I was just like, I really want to play the skirmish season because I just want to play some more Dromai, and I hadn't had a chance to in a while. So I did drive about an hour and a half to the next town over to go play their skirmishes. Pro quests, I usually will begrudgingly. I have driven 4 hours each way to pro quests. Usually 3 hours each way is about where I want to be. Like I will pull up every pro quest within about 3 hours, and I will probably go to all of those. If I feel like there's not enough pro quests, or just like we get to the end of the season and I still don't have a qualification, I'd probably be willing to do 4. I'm not happy about doing 4, but I've done it in the past. There are also a couple of stores that are more than 4, that are 4-ish hours away, that are just really cool stores that are in, and like that's like
it's a big difference.
Those then I'm like, all right, I'm willing to drive a little bit further for some of those stores, and those are some pretty cool stores, and that's fine. And I've done that a couple of times. For what was the question? That PQ. Callings. I never one day a calling. My actual metric for travel is I will drive up to 8 hours for any battle hardened. Occasionally I have pushed to 9. Like Atlanta is like 8.5 hours, 9 hours for me, and I have driven to Atlanta a couple of times. So I'll usually do 8 hours for any battle hardened, and then any calling in the US I will almost universally be at, even if that means I have to fly. And then I'm at basically every tier 4. Although I've missed a couple of the Asian tier 4s. I missed a couple of the Asian tier 4s because
missed a couple. Yeah.
Flying to Asia is very expensive.
I
meant just about every tier 4. Other than that, pretty much anywhere in the world. And then any calling in the US, if it's within 8 or 9 hours, I'll drive to it. If it's beyond that, I'll fly to it. I am aware that like I have a slightly privileged position because I kind of do this for a living, so I have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to like what I'm willing to travel to.
That's fair. Next one's from Johnny Pastrami, who always asks questions that don't make any sense in context what we're doing. What is the worst Christmas gift you've ever received?
Oh God. Come back to me on this one. I don't know if I've gotten any bad Christmas gifts. I'm sure I have, but
my wife got me a calendar once, and I don't mean like a calendar like in the age where people used calendars. I mean a calendar in the age where people have cell phones and like computers that have calendars.
That's a weird one. Ooh, you know what? I have one that it's not actually a Christmas gift. Hang on one second. I'm gonna see if I can find a thing.
No, Darick, you're up while Mara looks.
I just got it today.
Okay. Go on. No, your family doesn't listen to the show.
My mother-in-law got me a weird statue of what I think is either like a falcon or an eagle. And it's like not small. It is downstairs on our dining room table, and she was just like, "Yeah, I thought you'd like it." And I don't know why.
That's
I mean it is big. Like it is.
Yeah. All right.
Like I'll put it this way. Even after my mother-in-law left and whatever, and when we were not in front of the kids, my wife turns to me and she went, "Why the fuck would she think we want that? Like, we don't have anything like that in our house."
Maybe she thought that you were just Ghostface Killer and you wanted a giant eagle.
I would have thought you'd like a giant eagle.
A real eagle, sure.
All right, we'll take it.
Best they got.
All right, so check this out. It's not really a like worst Christmas gift. It's more funny than anything. But all right, my stepfather several years ago got my partner and I this. It's a Christmas. It's a poop.
It's like
a poop. It is a poop with like antlers.
With
it's
horns.
like little antlers and like a Rudolph nose. And all right, here, let's.
Okay.
Can y'all hear this?
That's some South Park shit.
It also like vibrates and like it like turns. What? Okay.
Now we know why you have it.
He got this first as a joke. It was obviously not a real gift. It was a stupid thing. He's just got that like weird sense of humor of like, hey, look at this dumb thing. I got you a dumb thing. And we got it and went, ha, that's stupid. And we were going to throw it away just cuz. And then somehow when we were putting up all our Christmas shit that year, it just got thrown in the box of Christmas decorations. It just, I don't know how it ended up there. It just did. So like the next Christmas, we're like decorating and pulling out our stuff and we pull this thing out and we're just like, how the fuck did this thing still get here? And so it's then cursed. It was just there. And then that year we went to just put up all our Christmas stuff. And then like it was kind of the same thing where we just like chucked it in the box with the Christmas stuff. And then the next year we just pulled it out again. And then we were like, why the fuck do we still have this thing? And so now it's a Christmas tradition. This is just part of our like every Christmas now. This comes out and it doesn't even like go anywhere particular. It's usually just sits on the floor and the cats play with it. But this is just like part of our Christmas decorations now. We have a Christmas poo and it spins around and we push the button once when you take it out. We both go, that's really stupid. We should throw it away. And then we don't. And then we carry on with the rest of our Christmas. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever got, but it's dumb and somehow we still have it.
Okay. Next one is from Bryn. As longtime TCG gamers, unlike me, do you think there's something specific about card games that make them overly emotional, reactive babies who can't see past their own noses? Is it a Dunning-Kruger type effect, or are people in general just like this about very complex things? For those not familiar with what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, that's basically where you think you're good at something and you're not. And where people who are good at something often think that they...
The idea is the less you understand about a topic, the more you think you understand everything there is to understand about a topic.
Right. So, I mean, there are valleys to this. If you look at, there's always like a chart that gets posted where you have people who aren't good at a thing and like how approachable and kind they are in events. And it's like, moderately, not very good, moderately bad. And they're very nice. And then there's this giant dip. And that goes to people that are mediocre. And they're just unbearable assholes. And then it spikes again where people are competent. So I think in this case, when it comes to TCGs, especially when it comes to competition, people tend to warp their entire identities around it. And that creates a very heavy results-oriented level of thinking. And so anything that is preventing them from achieving the desired result is stupid and bad decision-making or targeted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It breeds a level of paranoia that causes people to have this sort of valley of behavior. I have found it to be present, at least in some volume or form or fashion, in every card game I've ever played. So it is not unique to anything. And I think it's just a whole personality warping that people do around things to achieve an identity and kind of, because people are gravitated towards like this village concept and being a part of a whole, being a part of the club, whatever it is, right? A buddy of mine sent this to me recently, and I thought that this was perfect. I don't remember if he sent it to me on Discord. Yeah, he did. Okay. It states, it's in the nature of humans to want to belong to a group, to want to be accepted, appreciated, and needed. What is most frightening about their kind are the sacrifices they are prepared to make in order to become part of such a tribe, clique, sect, sewing circle, cult, or book club. Reason and morality are often at the top of the list of what must be surrendered as part of the club fees. Truth becomes a collective property, an adaptable shield used to shelter the in-group from those outside. Dogs, on the other hand, are great. And I'm pretty sure that kind of just sums up card gaming too. People are willing to do whatever they need to feel as though they belong to the in-club or sect or whatever they identify with. That's part of like kind of the, mission's the wrong word. The conceit of this show or this group that we are like the community we've cultivated and curated is we don't mind that people feel like they belong with us, largely because we will tell you if you don't. And I think that that's another thing that's lost is people are also unwilling to self-police in some instances. But as far as the over emotional reactive babies that can't see past their own noses, it's because they've tied up too much of their identity in this one thing. And so when things are not exactly as they seem, they react in such a way that their identity is being broken.
I think there's a tangential to that I think is kind of just agreeing with everything you're saying. But like, I think a lot of it's ego too. I think, we talk about people want to feel important. Yeah. They want to feel skilled. They want to feel talented. And, I've talked about this with a lot of people that always ask, like, how do you get better at Flesh and Blood? And I think the first thing I usually tell people is you have to put down your ego. You can't. Yeah, you have to accept that you're like, okay, I am bad, and that's okay. And if I lose games, that's okay. That's part of the process. But a lot of people that don't understand that, they get so focused on like, I have to win because my ego says I'm supposed to. And if I lose, that means I'm wrong. That means my opinion of myself is wrong. And I can't mentally handle that. And I think that's where you see a lot of these, we talk about these overly emotional reactive players because they can't handle the notion that their vision of themselves might be incorrect. And it leads people to get very reactionary and very touchy about stuff like that they really don't recognize that, like, you can still be proud of yourself and full of yourself. I'm a fucking ego goddamn maniac. I lose all the time. Like, a lot. I lose a lot. And I'm still like a ton. Like, it's a ton. Way more than a normal person probably should. And I still think I'm kind of a big deal. And that's okay. And there's no cognitive dissonance here. I am cool with losing a bunch and still think I'm pretty awesome. And I think that's important. I think that genuinely, like, I think you have to be able to separate your opinion of yourself and your ability to grow in the game with your results. You have to be able to lose to get better at this game. You cannot like get better at this game if you're never losing. No, that's true. And I think that's a big 100%. Part of it. I think if you see these people that get really reactionary and really like, act like that, they're the kind of people that have tied too much of their ego to winning games. And I think it's a terrible thing. And I think it's one of the first things that needs to get thrown away if you ever want to get good at a game like this.
Yeah. Darick, do you have anything to add?
I mean, I've plenty to add, but do you really even care?
I care.
Why wouldn't I care?
I don't know. I just didn't want you to get all emotional about it.
That is true.
Because you're a TCG player.
This is as emotional as I get about TCGs.
I don't know if it's necessarily because of what I would describe as emotion as much as it is just investment and or, much to the ego thing, people feeling like they are experts. And I think there's a lot of things that drive that. I think first and foremost, if you've been playing for as long as like Logan and I have,
and Mara for that matter,
I'll say this, it's gotten a lot better. But when I first started playing, trading card games were a rich white kids club. Like, it was a luxury hobby in a niche market, and it was gate kept hard. And even as somebody who, like, I grew up incredibly poor, so like I would show up at events with like my decks that, you know, of MTG or whatever that were commons, and I'd get stomped, or if I'd play Star Wars and I'd run into the people with Luke's Invaders or whatever. And that's just because the people who could afford it, you know, especially even more so back then, were usually from successful, you know, middle class or better white families. And so I say this because now, as you know, those people like myself are, you know, older, but still entrenched in the hobby. A lot of that group is they're just mentally conditioned to feel like they are successful. And that translates to card games as well. And if you are also good at card games and you get some wins here, you know, you top 8 this, you do whatever, it just feeds that like ego and that appeal to authority even more. But the reality is that for a lot of people, I don't think that there is this connection between like you can be good at something and still not know everything about it. Right.
Flesh and Blood's a hard game.
You know, there's, well, it's not even just Flesh and Blood though, right? Like card games in general, like you always see these people that are like, well, I'm a pro player, or I'm, you know, somebody who is a world champion or whatever. And I'm not saying this is a Flesh and Blood thing. So like, but just in general, you'll know the players I'm talking about when I say this, where they've won some events and they do this thing. And then when they talk about a meta, or they talk about the devs, or they talk about balance, they speak as if they are the smartest person in the room. And being good at the game is not the same as being good at game design.
Actually true.
And we've seen we have seen time and time again where suggestions from players would be awful for game design, or when players, again, not saying this is a Flesh and Blood specific thing, but when players have been allowed to create cards because they like win some event or whatever, then the cards are usually either overly complex or overly broken, right? Like I think back to, you know, Confidant and things like that in MTG, right? Like it's and again, it's because they're just looking at like, what could I make as a spike, and not like, what is an interesting game design thing? What brings more to the table? What, you know, facilitates the experience? And so there's like a disconnect, right? And then you get the people that say like, you know, well, if you've never done this, you can't have an opinion or whatever. And it's just not like that in other forms of competition, right? Like nobody says to, you know, football coaches that didn't play in the pros that they don't know what they're talking about. Nobody, you know, goes and says to the basketball coaches, hey, like you never, you know, played in the NBA, so like, why should I listen to you? Blah, blah, blah. There's just this carryover of like, I'm successful and thus I know more than you, or I know what's best for the game because look at what I have accomplished. And that, I think, is what then creates it, because when they're challenged on those ideas, or when there's pushback, or even if it's not from the community, if the game developers decide to go in a different direction, then they feel like they're like, it's almost insulting, right? Like, because they had this high view of like, hey, this was the smart thing to do. Well, then you've got two choices at that point, right? You can either go, actually, maybe I was wrong, or you can continue to say, no, they're dumb. And unfortunately, a lot of times in card game communities, again, not necessarily Flesh and Blood, but I've been a part of a lot of card game communities, people choose the latter. You know, there's not a lot of people that are willing to go like, yeah, you know, I was wrong, or, hey, I didn't think about that, or whatever. They just want it. And I think it's been exacerbated specifically in the card game community for like the last decade or so, just because of social media, because social media in general, not just related to card games, but I just mean
in general,
period, conditions everyone to feel like they have to have an opinion, right?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
The thing that I'm constantly telling both my boys is that it's okay to say, I don't know enough about this to have an opinion, because at the end of the day, everyone's like, something happens and then, you know, half your family are suddenly experts on what's going on in the Middle East. And I'm like, no, like, stop. And it's like that with everything though. And social media just like makes it worse, and people want to pile on and they want to ride trends because it's incentivized and it's encouraged. And at the end of the day, like that translates to card game communities and video game communities and everything else. And it's okay to be wrong. And it's also okay to just not have an opinion, right? It's no different than on any other show we've done where we're like, hey, what would you do for balancing? And sometimes I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, you know, if it was my job, sure. Like I would tackle it. If I had more experience, sure. Like, yes, I've played card games for longer than I'm going to say out loud.
Yeah. Don't say that out loud. Please don't.
But that doesn't mean that I'm always going to be right. And it doesn't mean that I'm like paid to do it for this game and whatever. Right. At the end of the day, I'm just saying like, hey, with the knowledge I have, this would be my educated guess.
My soul just left my body realizing
I have deck boxes older than Brody Spurlock. Like the ones like in my bag, like the ones that I use regularly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know.
I have a plaque on my wall. I wish I could tilt my camera so you could see it, Mara. I have a plaque on my wall that is from 1997 from an MTG Arena League that my LGS ran, and my name is on it for, I don't know, like most inspirational player or something. It's got a bunch of players on it because they like added names.
Who are you?
Yeah, like, hold on.
Oh my God.
Get it off the wall.
Oh, he's going to try to get, Charmer's going to try to get something awful. This isn't
my deck boxes are made by Rook. I've got the full set of the metallic Rook art boxes.
I don't have the full set anymore, sadly. I did pick up
for the listeners here. I'm sorry, you don't get to see this.
Holy shit!
I'm not joking. So this was 1997. Daggett's Comics, the Magic the Gathering Arena League, and I am on here for. I was on Most Creative during the Harvest season. Most Creative. But there are people that are still my locals that are on this. But this is the shop that I started going to when I very first got into trading card games, and then I ended up working there when I was in high school and whatever. So when the ownership changed hands and they were moving some of the stuff out, I was like, hey, can I have that? Because there's a lot of names on here, including, so there's a Robert Bugby that's on here that was my best friend at the time. He later committed suicide. Oh. So this is also like my
memorial. Yeah.
Thing for him. But yeah, so I have this that is older than Brody for sure. And if this doesn't tell you how long I've been playing,
that's older than Dagan White. That's older than Elaine Hammondtree.
I don't like reminders that all my friends are babies.
Right. Like happens all the time to me. And I sit there in a group because I have so many fantasy football leagues. And in one of them, I hang out with everybody, and then I realize eventually it washes over me that I'm the youngest person in the room. Oh, and it feels so good. And then I do shit like this. Or I go to a calling and I'm like, fuck, there's maybe two people in this room older than me. It's real bad. And I still have, I think somewhere in this house, somewhere in my cornucopia bullshit is still an original sealed glossy black pack of deck protectors from, what would become Ultra Pro.
Oh my God.
With the gesture
on
those. Circa 1995. There is a sealed box of them somewhere in here. There is there behind me in this curio cabinet, there is an OTSD in there, which is the tournament sealed decks for Star Wars. And it's sealed. So, that's older than Brody by a lot. That's as old as Charmer's plaque. So
can that be our benchmark for age now? Is it older or younger than Charmer's plaque?
Charmer's plaque. I mean, probably we could do that. So our new bench is now: is it older than Charmer's plaque? And
Dude, I brush my teeth.
Jesus Christ. No, but like I was talking because I have an OTSD, like a tournament sealed deck for Star Wars behind me in this curio cabinet from 97. And I still have somewhere in my cornucopia of shit a sealed box of deck protectors, the black ones with the Jester on them from like 1995 from Ultra Pro before they were Ultra Pro. So yeah, like it's been too long. Like I'm too fucking old. But alas. Let's do one more question, mainly because I'm tired. But we're going to actually go to Jim Neban on this one because with Mara on, I think this is actually kind of important. How much do you think the increased easy access to data from FaBTCG has contributed to the meta feeling stale or the rediscovery of Mario as a top
This is an interesting
contender?
question. I think this is actually...
Yeah, I figured this would be tailor-made for you.
So, I don't know. I think there's this like weird line where if you don't have, like, you're gonna get data at some point, and it's less about like how much data you get, it's the speed at which you get the data. And I think we can kind of use Magic for like what is too far. Magic metagames are solved in days, not months. Like,
no, they're solved in hours.
There is so much data in Magic from like Magic Online, Magic Arena, and the 1,000 aggregators for this amount of data, to where like you just get everything so quickly that like Magic is a game where like you cannot be a brewer in Magic anymore. Like you just can't. There's like a dozen people that get to innovate new decks, and that's kind of it. And I think that's not great. It's not exactly engaging. It's not fun. But like, I do think having an amount of data kind of does the opposite thing, where having a chunk of data lets people innovate more. I would almost argue that FaBTCG kind of coming more into the thing has almost opened the meta up. I think like the fact that we have this very good, very healthy meta almost might be in part to FaBTCG. I think because people get these very granular amounts of data and can really drill down on like, okay, these cards are doing well, these cards aren't, these cards do well in this matchup, these cards do well in that matchup, these are the decks that I kind of want to target, here's, you know, what cards are doing well, what decks are doing well. I think as a deck builder, give you a level of granularity of the amount of information that you have that makes things very interesting. I do think, like I say, talking about like that in the Magic example, I think there is a risk of too much data. I think there's absolutely such a thing as too much data. And it does, like, data, large data sets will lead to things being solved a little bit more quickly than they were, like, you know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where like we were like, okay, we have a calling this month, we have one little data set, and then like 3 months later we're going to have our next big event, and there's just like very slow drip trickle of information. But I think it's like a kind of a pro-con thing. I think I don't want to go much farther than what we have right now. I definitely don't want to reach a Magic level to where we have an online client with thousands of games that are getting, and that we're just getting super aggregated on everything. But having that little bit of extra data, I think, actually can open the game up a little bit more and lead to more people that want to brew a little bit and want to get their hands a little dirtier on how deck building actually works. Having that data is a really cool tool. So yeah, I think mostly this meta feels stable purely just on the length of time we've been in it. And like I say, things will get solved a little bit quicker just because of FaBTCG. That's just gonna happen. But I don't think we've quite reached that like critical mass of like things are going too quickly yet. And I hope we never do.
Right. And so fair trade here. I've never looked at FaBTCG until right now.
Oh, it's an awesome
in my life. I'm not part of a testing team. I'm not in the weeds trying to solve the game, or anything like that. Instead, I'm usually like just fiddling with my pet decks or trying to do whatever I think is fun. That doesn't mean I'm not competitive, because I want to win. And but I also do so the thing that I want to make sure that I always make say that is true is, if you see me on Talishar, you will probably beat me, and because I will intentionally do things incorrect, things that I normally wouldn't do, because I'm trying to see how hard can I fuck up and still be okay. Like, I'm trying to find the fail cases, and not the, oh, I win if I do this. I'm trying to figure out, because to me, paper reps trump everything. And it's mechanics that are important. Like, I've watched people try to play like Kasai, that I give them a list or whatever. And there I played a bunch on Talishar, I was doing good, and then I played it in person and I couldn't win, and I didn't win. And I'm like, okay, how many Valiant Dynamo triggers did you miss? And a lot of times the answer is like 5. I'm like,
don't miss those.
Right. Don't miss those. That's 5 damage. Like, how many of those games ended super close on razor thin margins, which is very Kasai, because you had to block with an extra card that would have otherwise been able to just eat their hand or throw enough damage that didn't matter. Those margins are important, and you only get that sense in paper. The thing about Fab Blazing, as I'm looking at it for the first time, is I can just take the data source to paper. And that gives me everything I'd ever look for.
It is like, this is cool tool.
Incredible.
I also just I was just rereading the question again, and also I kind of read, they mentioned the rediscovery of Mario as a top contender, and I think this is actually a really good point for kind of what I was arguing for. I think both Mario and Acilio, the rise of these two decks, is a really good kind of point in this, where like Mario as a deck sort of fell off, and people had just sort of accepted that, like, oh, Mario has a really bad Gravy matchup. Gravy's gotten more popular, so like clearly Mario's just not really a deck anymore. Mario kind of just fell off the face of the earth. And Acilio also for a long time was considered this very like niche, kind of unstable deck that just never quite wasn't like quite good enough. It was cute, but then we started getting this data in, and like when these decks weren't just like, they weren't top 8ing events, but you could go in and say like, oh, these decks aren't top 8ing, but like they're putting up numbers, and you can actually go in and you can get granular, like, oh, their matchup against this is 57%. Their matchup into this deck is 52%, and you can get that data and start going, oh, maybe we are missing things. Maybe there's things, just because like the top 8 is only like one piece of data, and I see so many people that just think like, oh, I look at top 8s and go, okay, that's all the data there is. And then you can dig into something like Fab Blazing and go, oh, no, there's a lot more story to be told here. And I do think, like I said, I think having that data does lead to exploring new options that people might have otherwise just looked at and gone, okay, that deck didn't top 8, therefore it's not good.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that
it's a really cool tool. It's an absolutely awesome tool.
Yeah. Never looked at it until now, but yeah, that's a lot. All right, I am bone fucking tired. Same. And I'm ready to get out of here. Let's thank some patrons, shall we? Our associate producers, we have Andy, Sindra, Anthony, Ejor, Jacob, Aladoris, Octo, Thorptopus, and Sofsky and Heiner and Sleep Coma. For our executive producers on up, we have Blaze Storm, value member of the Patreon, Diana the Green Cosplayer, John and Charlie. Our opossum supporter is the Delusion Data Analyst. And for our Chargers Chamber of Charcoal participants on up, we have Vintox18, the Gehenna Grandiloquent, getting, I think, close to getting you on as soon as I can get you a new computer. Matt, Brandon, the Hammer did great last week. And Polish guy Rich, our ceiling fan. If you're interested in becoming a member of our Patreon, you go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Links in the show notes. You can pick some fucking tier. I don't really care. We do After Dark sometimes, probably one coming up soon, honestly, before the holidays. But that's where we just kind of say whatever the fuck we want to. If you need to contact the show, you can send us a message at an email, I guess, at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can also find us on BlueSky. Just search Flesh and Pod. Best thing to do is join our Discord. Links in the show notes. It's absolutely free. There's been a lot of shit talking and weird shit that's been happening all over the place, and we just kind of cover all of it. Laura,
I
where
am
can they
pretty
find
active
you?
on BlueSky. It's at Blackwing Studio. I have a Patreon. My Patreon is phenomenal. We have a patron Discord of our own. We do a lot of pretty high level discussion and chat. We're talking about of the Discords that I've been in. Patron chat has been one of them. I write, if you like ridiculous deep dives into Flesh and Blood heroes, I now have 60+ page guides on Dromai, Dash, Vinset, and Fang now that are all pretty wild. I'm currently in the process of doing a major rewrite for Dash.io, including a big chunk for Cogdio, which has been a fantastic deck that we've been working on. I have my own line of tokens. The patrons get free tokens every month if you're on the right tiers. I have an Etsy shop where you can order custom tokens from. It's also just at Blackwing Studio. Otherwise, yeah, I think BlueSky, I answer pretty much any Discord messages, any BlueSky messages. I'm always down to chat with anybody about Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, just like the message you answered from me like 40 minutes before we started recording and said, "Hey, you busy? You want to come hanging
out with you guys?"
And then you said yes.
I did.
Well, first you checked with your partner,
and then I fed the cats early.
Said it was okay. Yeah, they need that. Darick, where can they find you?
The Discord is the best place to find me at IMJOR.
This is never getting old, is it?
Send me pictures of snow.
Nope, it sure isn't. Old. That bit is going to live forever.
Here's the thing. It's because I love Jordan and I miss Jordan. And since we're this deep in a long show, assuming
how deep?
About this deep.
Still so funny.
Now I don't know why. I understand that sometimes you don't always respond to your Discord pings right away, and so if I was to want to contact you, how many times would I have to ping you in like sequence to make sure you get it?
Just send pictures of snow, and then I will for sure look at it. And speaking of snow, and also speaking of
the white Canadian rapper,
the old host Jordan, who I miss very much. Earlier, Logan said that my role on this was to keep him on the rails, and I chuckled internally. And I'm okay saying it this late into the episode because most people aren't listening.
No one's watching.
My inner monologue thought, yeah, that's different rails than what Jordan used to keep him on. So if you know, you know.
Let's be honest, no one's watching this deep. They Googled Kiss
Blue
players
Sky,
and turned the show
Twitter, whatever.
They sure did.
Under no circumstances, do not
We
Google
told them not to.
Okay, good
anyway.
times.
My God.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Really?
No,
not.
You're not. You're really not. I've known you for too long at this point. You're just not that sorry. By that, I mean at all sorry.
I do.
You know you ruined my day.
I am delighted.
And you're very happy about this. Oh my God.
We're sorry.
All right, well, I guess that's episode 211. Is that what this was? Some number, right? Yeah, 211. Yeah, that's what it says. Okay, well. Thanks for listening. If you got this far, still do not Google Kiss players. Do not ask what kind of rails I was on. Train. And we will talk to you all next week.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a train. It's fine. Oh, that's even. No, don't. No. No, I'm out of here. Bye. Have a good one, guys. Talk to you next week. Bye.